Over on Instagram, I did a poll and I asked my community which Space Marine faction they wanted more of a deep dive into. And of course, Dark Angels came out on top, but here we are. Warhammer lore is complex, and my goal here on YouTube is to kind of make it more accessible, particularly for beginners, so it's not overwhelming. So this video, as always, it's pitched at beginners. If you are an avid Dark Angels fan, do not come for my jugular. Just please comment on this video with all of your advice, tips, tricks, whatever we need to support each other as best as we can within this community. Okay, there's your warning. So when it comes to lore, where do you even start? For Dark Angels, in terms of what I have personally read, Horus Heresy and Luther, great starting points. Knights of Caliban, also Legacy of Caliban, both by Gav Thorpe. Speaking of who is like the boy to go to for Dark Angels lore, he actually has a suggested reading order on his website that's super useful, so I'm going to pop that in the description to help you. Another one to note though that I really enjoyed is A War of Secrets. This is because it kind of revolves around the Primaris Marines and how the Dark Angels see them. It's just a really cool take on things, so check that one out, or don't. But yeah, please comment. Any books, any articles, whatever you think will help. Just for anyone who finds this video and is looking to get into Dark Angels a lot more with a nice, supportive, welcoming community. And we act like we bake cookies and do all those nice things. Why am I doing that? The Dark Angels, who are they? First Space Marine Legion, created by the Emperor of Mankind, who, if you're totally new, is like godlike leader of humanity in 40k. Now, during this galaxy-spanning war called the Great Crusade, and then later, during the Horus Heresy, which is a civil war, the Dark Angels fought using several elite, highly specialized formations, and that is what this video is going to focus on. If you're interested in part 2, 3, 4, 5, 56, because it's intense, please comment what you think we should cover next, and of course, we will try and do that as best as we can. So, Dark Angels, like I said, 6 unique, mysterious fighting styles. Some so ancient they haven't even been seen in thousands of years. It's really cool. They're all referred to as the wings of the Dark Angels, and each one, it represents a different way this legendary force takes to the battlefield. Like I said, all have a distinct role. You've got rapid assault, covert operations, and while some are still famous today, others just totally lost to history, like when the Spanish erased all of the Aztecs' scriptures. Don't know where I'm going with this. Anyway, let's go. Most iconic, probably, of the Dark Angels' wings is Ravenwing. It's like this fast, relentless strike force that values speed and maneuverability over heavy armor and sheer firepower. Think of them as the rapid response cavalry of the chapter. They race into action. They've got these sleek bikes and hovering land speeders. I'll pop a picture on because they're like these fast vehicles. They glide just above the ground like a futuristic hovercraft. They look really cool. But what sets Ravenwing apart is their unique role. They aren't just fast attackers. They're skilled hunters, like John Wick, but in space. Their true mission is often kept secret even within the chapter, but it's to track down the Fallen. Now, the Fallen are like mysterious traitors from the Legion's past. We'll touch on them in a bit more detail later on, but they're former Dark Angels. They turned against the Imperium during the Horus Heresy, and the Ravenwing's relentless pursuit of them is like the core part of the Dark Angels' hidden purpose. Now, unlike the rest of the chapter, who wear this iconic green armor, the Ravenwing is just clad in jet black. Like I said, John Wick in space. Tell me I'm wrong. Please don't. Please don't tell me I'm wrong. Agree with me. That's what we have to do. It's like a nod to the original colours of the Legion back in the earliest days of the Imperium. Now, Ravenwing, it has its own elite units too. There are Ravenwing command squads, and they lead and coordinate these fast strikes. Then you've got Ravenwing Black Knights that just sound cool, right? But they're veteran warriors who are part of the chapter's inner circle, like selective group that they know the full truth about the Fallen. Then you've got standard Ravenwing squads, I can't talk today, split into 2 main types: attack squads, obviously for offensive actions, and whoa, attacks, and support squads, would you believe it, for support, who back them up with advanced tech and firepower. Now, in the skies above, the Ravenwing also deploys aircraft. Like, for example, you've got Dark Talon. Again, I'll pop a picture. Sleek, deadly machines that they just bring the same speed and precision to aerial combat. Now, the origins of Ravenwing go way back, even before the Dark Angels were part of the Imperium of Man. Their roots lie in an ancient knightly order known simply, would you believe it, as the Order, a brotherhood of warriors from the Dark Angels' homeworld called Caliban. Now, these knights, they were expert cavalrymen. They rode black horses through the planet's dense, monster-infested forests. They were known for their ability to survive alone in the wild, dangerous terrain. They're heroic figures, dressed in matte black armour, and their helms were shaped like wings. They just looked chef's kiss. The modern Ravenwing, it takes a lot of inspiration from these ancient traditions. Particularly, it kind of comes from those early days on Caliban. But while their look and symbolism are steeped in tradition, their battlefield role was actually designed much later by the Emperor of Mankind himself. So during the Unification Wars, which was like this brutal campaign to unite Terra or Earth under one rule before the Great Crusade, the Emperor planned for his legions. Like I said, he planned for them to be divided into these 6 specialised branches. He referred to it as hexagrammaton, really nice, easy term to learn, right? Kind of like a tactical playbook made up of like the 6 distinct wings, each with its own battlefield speciality, and the Ravenwing became one of these wings, masters, like I said, of fast mobile warfare. And though they've evolved over the millennia, their roots in both ancient Calibanite tradition and the Emperor's grand design, they remain at the core of who they are. Deathwing, probably one of the most iconic, mysterious forces of all of Warhammer 40k. Yes, I said it. They are completely unique among the Space Marines. Now, while most chapters have a first company made up of veteran warriors, the Dark Angels, they take this a step further. Every single member of the Deathwing, it fights in heavy-duty Terminator armour. Their suits are like walking tanks, bulky, they're ancient, incredibly powerful. They're designed for brutal close-quarters combat, and they hold the line no matter the cost. Now, visually, they stand out immediately. Instead of the chapter's standard dark green or the jet black of the Ravenwing, Deathwing warriors, they wear this bone white armour. You kind of jump from, like I said, John Wick in space to Gandalf the White in space, or Elvis? That's where my mind went. In a stark contrast, it kind of symbolises their purity, resolve, and of course their connection to the grim truths that only they are entrusted to bear. Their unique colour scheme, it's exclusive to Dark Angels. Their successor chapters, they don't use it. Now, their symbol, like the rest of the chapter, is a winged sword, but in the Deathwing, the blade is depicted as broken. It's kind of like this haunting emblem, just hinting at the burden they have to carry. They're not just an elite battlefield unit, though. They're like spiritual and they're secretive, particularly because anyone promoted into the Deathwing, they're not only proven in battle, but they're also, like I said, entrusted with the darkest secrets. And when I say secrets, I'm talking about the fallen. So traitorous Dark Angels turned against the Emperor during the Horus Heresy. Then you've also got another secret, which is the tragic betrayal of Luther, the former second in command, who rebelled against their Primarch Lionel Johnson, who's, if you don't know, like superhuman gene father of the Legion. Only those within the Deathwing and higher echelons truly know the full story of this ancient shame. Within Deathwing, even more specialised groups, bear with me, Deathwing command squads responsible for commanding, leadership, coordination, particularly during major operations. Then you've got Deathwing Knights, really cool name, just absolute elite of the elite, armed with massive weapons, heavy armour, legendary for their unshakable determination. They will stand their ground to the end. Like, even if it makes more tactical sense to fall back, they're not budging. Their stubbornness is famous, or maybe infamous, I don't know. In battle, they're the rock on which the enemy breaks. They refuse to yield. They're not just fighters, they're guardians, I suppose, of both the chapter's future, but also its past. Just really cool and symbolic. The Ironwing is one of the oldest and probably most powerful formations of the Dark Angels. It's got roots that stretch way back to the Unification Wars. Now, during this time, as the Emperor is designing the 6 battlefield specialities, the Ironwing was like his answer to the most dangerous threats humanity faced. Enemies that are just so destructive, they had to be wiped out entirely before the Great Crusade could even begin. The Ironwing's Ironwing's role, that's a tongue twister, try and say that, I'll wait, was simple but devastating. Total annihilation. To accomplish this, they relied on the most heavily armoured and heavily armed vehicles that the Imperium had to offer. We're talking about land raiders. They're like massive tank-like transports. They can roll over pretty much anything. And dreadnoughts, which are towering war machines. They house the remains of space marines, like fallen space marines, and they're kept alive in like a sarcophagus to continue fighting even beyond death. depressing, really. Anyway, while other formations focus on speed or precision, Ironwing is just about firepower, smash, smash, smash. They advance like this steel wall. They just crush their resistance with sheer weight and force. Their tactics, they're often used when no other approach will work, and then their mission is just total destruction. So although the Ironwing, it isn't as commonly mentioned in modern times as Ravenwing or Deathwing, their influence is still seen in terms of like how the Dark Angels use their armoured forces, particularly in battle today. Whenever the chapter rolls out its heaviest vehicles, rolls out, what are we now? Autobots roll out, especially in these like relentless assaults. The spirit of the Ironwing, it lives on. The spirit lives on. Wow, I am cringe today. Think of it like if the Ironwing was the Emperor's hammer, Dreadwing is his scorched earth. I'm going down this, we're going for it today, okay? This grim, powerful formation specialized in total warfare. Their mission was not just to defeat the enemy, but to utterly erase them and then anything they could use to resist the Imperium ever again. Dreadwing, it was commanded by a voted lieutenant, a title given to trusted leaders chosen by their peers, and who bore this really cool name, Dreadbringer. Under the commander's watch, the Dreadwing, it deployed squads of destroyer marines. Now, space marines who are like equipped with weapons just so devastating that even other space marines will keep their distance. These troops, they were backed by heavy infantry and then just massive armoured support. Their assault forces were packed with probably some of the most terrifying war machines the Imperium has at its disposal, like think Land Raiders, Spartan assault carriers, Mastodons, and Felglaves, which are like these massive, heavily armoured vehicles bristling with guns and just advanced technology. So when the Dreadwing was unleashed, the battlefield didn't survive intact. What really set the Dreadwing apart, though, was their use of weapons, just so horrifying that most forces just won't touch them. We're talking like Phosphex, which is a chemical weapon and it sticks to everything and it just burns with nightmarish fire. You've got rad weapons which saturate areas with deadly radiation, and then there are vortex weapons which literally tear reality apart and just leave nothing behind. These tools of destruction, they were feared, often also shunned, even within the Imperium, but the Dreadwing saw them as necessary to accomplish their mission. By the current era of Warhammer 40k, the Dreadwing, as a formal organisation, it no longer exists, but their legacy lives on. It's kind of like whispered about in the darkest corners of Dark Angels history, and when the chapter rolls out their heaviest firepower and dares to use these like forbidden tools of old, it's kind of said that the Dreadwing, it rides again in spirit. I'm really going with this spirit vibe today. During the time of the Great Crusade, when the Emperor led his armies across the galaxy to reunite the scattered human world, Stormwing was the formation you called on when the battle moved into like tight corridors of ships and space stations. So Stormwing was made up of assault squads, fast-moving space marines equipped for close combat. But slight twist, they were armed with like massive boarding shields. These shields turned them into like this walking wall of ceramite and steel, just perfect for brutal room-to-room fighting. Their job was to storm enemy vessels, seize control of key areas, and then just eliminate resistance in some of the most dangerous conditions imaginable, all while under fire in zero gravity or against entrenched defenders. Now, naval boarding operations were their speciality, whether crashing into enemy battleship from a boarding torpedo or blasting through airlocks during a void assault. The Stormwing excelled in shock tactics and overwhelming force at close quarters. They turned the claustrophobic nightmare of ship-to-ship combat into their own personal battlefield. It's so cool. And like Dreadwing, Stormwing, annoyingly, it no longer exists as a formal organisation, particularly in this era, the grim, dark present of the Warhammer 40k universe. But like I said, let's make this dramatic. Let's think echoes of their tactics live on in how the Dark Angels conduct their void assaults and boarding actions today. Their legacy is probably one of courage under extreme pressure and mastery of like a battlefield where there's like nowhere else to run. Firewing is perhaps the most mysterious, and there's a reason I kept it till this late on in the video, particularly of the 6 ancient formations. It's created as part of the Hexagrammaton, which I mentioned was the Emperor's grand tactical vision during the Great Crusade. Now, Firewing's exact role, lost to history. We know it existed and fought during both the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy, but details of its purpose have kind of just faded into legend, buried under like 10,000 years of secrecy and silence. Unlike Ravenwing, unlike Deathwing, which still operate, Firewing, like the others, didn't survive into this current era. Its mission was it either became obsolete or it was just absorbed into other formations, or was like just deliberately erased, perhaps due to the same ancient shame that haunts so much of the Dark Angels' history. Still though, Firewing, it hasn't been entirely forgotten. Some of the symbols and heraldry, like the chapter's old flame motifs, have been spotted in modern successor chapter of the Dark Angels, known as the Consecrators. These warriors, they're known for like preserving ancient armor and relics, and their iconography, it kind of suggests a link to the lost Firewing. It's not proof, but it is a clue. And in the secretive world of the Dark Angels, that's often the best anyone can hope for, really. So what we do know, though, is that if Firewing ever returns, it's likely to bring with it knowledge that, and perhaps even weapons, just thought lost to time entirely. Anyway, that kind of covers the fighting styles, with some cool history, I guess, sprinkled in. Obviously, we've just scratched the surface. So if you are interested in more Dark Angels lore, breakdowns, different things to nitpick at, please let me know what you would like me to cover. If there's any other faction entirely that you want to get like elbow deep in, drop a comment and we'll roll up our sleeves. I apologize for all of the cringe levels. I tried to make it a little bit more, who knows, vavavoom came to my head. Anyway, I implore you only one time to do all those things you need to do to please support my tiny channel. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Who knows what it might be about. Deathwing, Ravenwing, Dark Angels. I digress. Bye. Bye. I'm crying.